Mr. Chairman, I'd like to ask unanimous consent that we enter into today's record the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court order that they put out yesterday.
Without objection.
It's pertinent, obviously, to this conversation today. Horowitz, thank you. Thanks for your leadership, not only at SIGI, but also, obviously, with what you're doing there in DOJ. I appreciate your whole team and the work that you continue to do. You used the term, when talking about the mistakes that were made, saying there were so many mistakes, this was either somewhere between gross incompetence to intentional. But you didn't try to be able to determine the motivation of all these. It gets a little more harsh when the FISC responds back to this in the letter that they sent out in their order yesterday. They said because the conduct of the OGC attorney gave rise to serious concerns about the accuracy and completeness of the information provided to the FISC in any matter in which the OGC attorney was involved, the court ordered the government on December 5, 2019 to, among other things, provide certain information addressing those concerns. Then this. The FBI's handling of the Carter Page applications as portrayed in the OIG report was antithetical to the heightened duty of candor described above. The frequency with which representations made by the FBI personnel turned out to be unsupported or contradicted by information in their possession and with which they withheld information detrimental to their case calls into question whether information contained in other FBI applications is reliable. One of the reasons this hearing is so incredibly important is because what this group did at the FBI not only took our nation down years of turmoil, but they're now calling into question every FISA application, and I'm confident every attorney is going to bring this case up and to say we can't rely on the FISA process now and will cause turmoil in the FISA court for a very long time. So the Crossfire Hurricane team not only did damage to our nation, did damage to our justice system, and potentially damage to what we're doing in counterintelligence and counterterrorism. So we appreciate your work because this is incredibly important to actually get to the bottom of this process. Can you compare the quality of work as you went through the interviews with the Crossfire Hurricane team at HQ, at headquarters, with the Washington field office and those agents and the quality of their work? Did you see the same number of mistakes made in what was done between the Crossfire Hurricane team and the Washington field office team?
So many of the problems that come up here flow from the earliest parts of the investigation, which were the headquarters-based teams. As you know, the teams got mixed as they went along. It went out to the field, then it came back at various times, which is a problem we identified here. Most of the problems are occurring at the headquarters-based times when the teams are together. It's not exclusive, right, because it goes to the field as well.
So the Washington field office seemed to handle documents and procedures better than headquarters handled it.
I think on balance that's a fair comment, although frankly we don't go into trying to.
Right, you're not trying to compare the two. I'm asking for an opinion after you have gone through the process.
And there are so many problems here, we decided not to sort of
try to separate it out
exactly where things might have been not as problematic as others.
Let me follow on to what the chairman was talking about with Jonathan Weiner. The meetings in the State Department are very, very curious to me. That Steele somehow either initiates or he says was invited by State Department officials on October the 11th to be able to come sit down with officials at the State Department. He made very clear he's trying to get documents into the public eye before the election and to try to get all these things made public. That meeting happens on October the 11th. On October the 19th, Steele delivers to an FBI handling agent what he received from Jonathan Weiner from the State Department. So Steele is coming to make his case to the State Department. He makes his case. Apparently Jonathan Weiner then takes a document, gives it to Steele since he is getting things out into the public, and he sends that out. So someone from the State Department is trying to get out into the public what he described as a friend of a well-known Clinton supporter who received this from a Turkish businessman with strong links to Russia. So apparently someone from the State Department is taking a foreign document or a foreign source, getting it to Steele, who he knows is trying to get it out into the public. Were you able to close the loop on what that document is, how that happened, where that document came from?
We did not, and partly the issue, as you know, is the inability to talk to Mr. Weiner about where the document came from, that meeting, those connections, but also our access here and our review here was focused on FBI conduct and conduct by FBI personnel.
So just to clarify on this, this is very apparent to your team, though, that this is someone in State Department trying to take a foreign source document and trying to get it into the public to affect the campaign against Mr. Trump.
I can only tell you what we gathered here. We didn't have a chance to question people on it, so I don't want to be careful. We didn't reach conclusions. We're just presenting.
You're just saying what you saw at this point.
Right.
Bruce Orr is very curious in this process. The FBI, quote unquote, cuts off a relationship with Steele early November and then makes it official the 17th of November of 2016, saying we're going to have no more contact with Steele at all. But yet the next day, the FBI, for the first time, pulls Steele's file, and they're still going through this after they've, quote unquote, cut him off. And then within days, Bruce Orr is then doing back-channel communications with Steele, and they continue to maintain back-channel communications with Steele. So was Steele cut off as a source, or was the Crossfire Hurricane continuing to use him as a source, just not officially?
Yeah, we concluded the latter, that while he was cut off officially in FBI records, the FBI continued to meet with him through Bruce Orr as the conduit on 13 different occasions.
Why would Bruce Orr continue to be able to meet with him, and why would he continue to be tasked to do that?
Well, let me just be clear. He wasn't tasked to do it. There was, as he said, he understood what the FBI was looking for from him. But he was able to do it because there were no clear rules that prohibited him from doing it, and he intended and desired to do it. There was nothing that restricted
He
him.
maintained that. On page 188 of your report, you make this comment that Steele tasked his primary subsource after the 2016 election to find corroboration for the election reporting in the primary subsource, but he could find zero. He reported that to the FBI, he could find zero. He reported that to the Washington field office when they met with him in May of 2017. What I'm trying to figure out is Steele is tasking his subsource to go find corroboration after the election is even over. This was at least a month through this process and cutting off from the FBI. Who is tasking Steele to continue to go chase down more information?
We don't have evidence as to anybody specifically tasking Steele to go chase down evidence, but it's pretty clear from what we're laying out here that the FBI is, from day one, was asking questions about the corroboration for the Steele reporting and not getting it. So it wouldn't be surprising that Steele was still trying to see if anybody could find corroboration so he could demonstrate that there was support for his reporting when, in fact,
it was zero.
out here, that wasn't what was happening.
It was zero, and it was known immediately by FBI at that point that there was zero corroboration for this. In fact, the State Department personnel, even when they met with Steele, noted that he had his facts wrong, even what he was presenting at that point, and they knew it all immediately.
They referenced, I think it was the purported Miami consulate, that there was no such Miami consulate.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
So, Senator Lankford, just real quick, your line of questioning, again, reveals the shortcomings, again, not because of Inspector Horowitz's fault, but just the fact that he is constrained in terms of what information he can really gather, which is why I'm basically reaffirming to you, our committee's investigations have kind of combined. Senator Grassley in Finance, Senator Graham in Judiciary, and this committee. We've begun the process of requesting voluntary interviews on a host of different issues. This is just one of the areas. Again, our investigation started with the Clinton email scandal, kind of morphed into this because the same cast of characters is moving into this. So as I said in my opening statement, I'm not going to stop our oversight, our investigation, until I get all the answers to all the questions. The ones you and Senator Hawley raised are very valid, but again, the constraints of inspector generals, the way they are pretty well siloed in their departments, really prevents those questions being answered, even though it's an 18, 19-month investigation. So we'll continue our efforts.